Piper, sit thee down and write in a book that all may read. So he vanished from my sight, and I plucked a hollow reed, and I made a rural pen, and I stained the water clear, and I wrote my happy songs every child may joy to hear. Blake himself used instruments of the day, probably the church organ or the pump organ or harmonium. And what I have here in my lap is a miniature pump organ. It has a bellows and keys. It has 2.5 octaves. So it's probably not that different from the instrument that Blake may have used. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? Ba-da-dum, in what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wing dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? First of all, the rhythm as trochaic is exquisite representation of heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? So that the consonants of the heartbeat and the trochaic rhythm are the same. And then you realize that what the poem means is that both the tiger and the lamb rose out of the human imaginative heart, that we created these polar opposites out of our own heart's, body's imagination. Then the whole thing is a kind of a unified crystal. The beggar's rags fluttering in air does to rags the heavens tear. One could, sticks in your mind, and you wonder what it means really until you finally puzzle out in the 20th century that any nation that would allow many beggars in rags to be lying in doorsteps looking at heaven through their ragged sleeves would be the kind of desensitized society that would punch a hole in the ozone layer and tear the heavens to rags, literally.